Despite Nigeria's rich agricultural resource endowment, the agricultural sector has been growing at a very low rate. Less than 50% of the country's agricultural land is under cultivation. Even then, smallholder and traditional farmers who use rudimentary production techniques with resultant low yields cultivate most of this land. The smallholder farmers are constrained by many problems, including those of poor access to modern inputs and credit, poor infrastructure, inadequate access to markets, land and environmental degradation, and inadequate research and extension services.
Our agricultural systems in Africa and Nigeria is performing below par. It's about 40% is productivity potential. Well, which means if you just increase the irrigation so that you can grow crops for longer periods and you can grow number of crops. Simple irrigation. And we have water. We're one of the richest continents in the world with underground water. Improved seeds. That's not a new technology. Or smart fertilizer utilization and subsidies and the right policies. We can triple our food production. But you have to go hand in hand with the whole value chain, so people have better storage, better supply of energy, electricity that is consistent, for better storage, and for conservation, so they can also do some transformation work, adding value to their produce and taking it to the markets. They have to have good roads. And then those rural areas must also have electricity, social services, schools. Basically, that's what we're talking about.
The low-lying floodplains are very fertile during the rainy season, but the lack of rain during the dry season hinders agricultural development. The lack of water management systems in these areas is a concern for many farmers. By adding irrigation canals and access roads to these areas, yearly production yields are expected to increase.
These are the issues that we have to look at. The policies are good, but the gaps have to be looked at, specifically the participatory issue, which we have to focus more on extension services and how to tap into the knowledge of the local people. So how do we move beyond those gaps? But you will agree with me that in terms of distribution, we have been able to see that some of the distribution of fertilizer have been quite, but they should also look in the direction of other stakeholders in the agricultural sector, poultry farmers, livestock farmers. The issue of grazing reserves should be taken seriously, which is actually tending towards social insecurity in places where there are issues with farmers, with livestock farmers and agricultural arable farmers. Security will probably be more effective when agricultural produce are more available to people, because crimes tends to have scarcity, tends to bring about crime. So why don't we spend money on availability of food for our people? And that's why I said social security is key. When the social security is key, and food is one of the major things that drive social security, that means you're talking about spending more on the security in buying arms and ammunition. Why don't we look towards the social security of producing, giving farmers good incentives that makes them to be able to produce food crops for all of us? And in that way, you're reducing even the security issue that you're spending so much on. So we should take another look and think out of the box. Why do we spend so much money on arms? Why don't we spend so much money in supporting small-scale farmers that produces 80% of the food we eat in this country?
However, to attract investment into agriculture, it is imperative that those constraints inhibiting the performance of the sector are first identified with a view to unlocking them and creating a conducive investment climate in the sector. The development challenges of Nigeria's agriculture are therefore those of properly identifying and classifying the growth and development constraints of the sector, unlocking them, and then evolving appropriate strategies for promoting accelerated commercialization and investment in the sector. such that in the final analysis, agriculture will become one of the most important growth points in the economy.
Agricultural systems, research systems have to focus on the needs of farmers, the needs of the agricultural community, those who produce the food. The technologies that are there should be adapted so that they become accessible to farmers. Improved seed varieties, smart subsidies, incentives, and of course, infrastructure, roads, energy, electricity, for better storage of produce and things like that. I mean, you can name it. And as I said, an agricultural policy that is consistent so that when farmers produce more, prices do not crash. You see, if they have guaranteed prices, do not crash. And they have better storage facilities. They will not need to rush to sell their produce because it will begin to rot. They will keep them and preserve them and know when to sell, when the price is good.
The Minister of Agriculture recently said that there is an urgent need for the country to grow more food crops in order to meet the demands of our growing population and sought for more support from the international community towards the sustainable development of the country's agricultural sector. According to him, Nigeria's agricultural sector would require international support in its programs and initiatives such as the cattle breeding improvement, climate change, standardization, and certification of food products, seed development and improvement, capacity building, among others.
Our big interest is a proportionately higher number of Nigerians involved in agriculture, not dependence on foreign investors. Both groups can play together because it's not the foreigner who will finally determine your destiny. It's you and I. And thank God we have the land. Now we have the soil history of Nigeria, which will help us determine where we stand and what we can grow. The rest of it is about guidance and support to the farmer and increased extension services. With that, we'll get where we want to go. And the foreigner is welcome. We'll give him or her the support they need, but the key is for Nigerians themselves to realize that agriculture is not the territory for the forsaken and they never do well, which is the current attitude. Even I have suffered that at the hands of sometimes my friends in the political sector.
The federal government has also said that it has plans to empower market-oriented young agricultural producers in rural areas under its Youth Empowerment in Agriculture program. According to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, the program, which is aimed to cover the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, had commenced with 6 pilot states selected from the 6 geopolitical zones.
And then I think, related to this also, you have to think of your financial services, insurance services. I think Nigeria is making some advances in the area of agricultural insurance. I think the government is involved, maybe some sort of government for supporting the private sector, private insurance companies in terms of reinsurance and maybe making funds available. That is also very important, and I think it would help.
The government says it is working towards standardization in the agricultural sector of the economy, and the areas include cattle breeding improvement, climate change, standardization and certification of food products, seed development and improvement, as well as capacity building. The time to invest in agriculture and rural development is now. The challenge is garnering diverse financing sources, aligning the objective to the extent possible, and creating the right policy and institutional environment to bring about the transformational change needed to eradicate poverty, adapt to climate change, and contribute to limiting greenhouse gas emissions. That's our program for today. Thank you for watching. You can view this episode and any other episode by visiting our YouTube channel, youtube.com/channelsweb. Click on the playlist menu and then click EarthFile. From me, Ayola Kasim, and the rest of the crew here in Lagos. It's bye for now.